Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and today we're going to talk about a topic that was suggested to me by B, where B is talking about trans visibility and self-confidence to walk visibly in public as trans in potentially hostile environments. So I think this is a really interesting topic and something that I encountered a lot, especially when I was non-binary and dressing in a way that was confusing to folks because I looked bit masculine, but also wore feminine clothing. And I got a lot of weird looks and I got a lot of weird reactions, and I've navigated that space a bit. So I'd love to talk about that. So first of all, if you're in a potentially hostile environment where you could actually be in danger, I would suggest not being visibly trans in that area or just avoiding that area, assuming that you can't pass, which is its own privilege in itself. But I would just avoid that. Don't take on the fight of trying to be visible if it puts your life at danger. It's not going to help anyone, right? So let's just kind of move that one onto the do not do list. But if it's more of an emotionally hostile kind of thing where you feel like you might be not accepted or judged, or there's that aspect to being visibly trans, I think that is totally kind of like more appropriate to discuss in terms of a hostile environment. So when kind of stepping into these hostile environments, the way that I've diffused situations is to speak directly to the people that potentially are or could be hostile, but kind of like make my way to them. It really helps if you're extroverted, if you're capable of just being able to express yourself and be what I would say traditionally a normal person, because the first thing that these hostile people are trying to do is they're projecting onto you their fears, and they're looking for any kind of signals from you that makes you weird or strange, and looking for anything to legitimize their own bias of who they think you are. You know when you get that feeling like someone has projected onto you their own fears and you can feel it on you, and there's that kind of choice of whether you believe to buy into that or not? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where you can really feel that judgment and you can feel that kind of absorbed onto your body. That is something you address a couple ways. So the first way that I do that is to see if you can buy in some rapport. And maybe it's not directly from that person, but maybe it's from other people around. Like if you're at a barbecue or an event, maybe you have a friend there that's normal that you can talk to and kind of like engage with them to make yourself comfortable, as well as broadcast this energy of you being comfortable and being a normal person interacting with normal people. If someone can see you in a normal environment being normal, then they can say, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this person is not this crazy, weird, strange person that's trying to like take away my rights or something like that, you know? And then kind of making your way potentially towards this person. If you need to engage with them, you can just talk to them like a regular person, treat them in a normal way, have a normal conversation, maybe even be charming, maybe even be funny. You can win over people just by being a normal person and sharing in the space, getting to know people, wanting to know people. And I'll caveat this with sometimes the hostility that we may perceive may not actually be hostility. It can also just be curiosity or confusion or just someone's own bias that they don't really get. And we can be holding that hostility against us. We can be projecting that onto what we're interpreting from them. That's a little complicated and nuanced in terms of being able to detect that. But if you're mindful of how your own thoughts are and how you're interacting in an environment, you might be able to distinguish between the two. Sometimes diffusing a situation is just talking to that person and diffusing your own perception of that conflict. I think another thing is to just kind of like ignore it, not to like try and pretend it's not there, but to just focus on creating something else in the space. So maybe you feel like it's awkward. Maybe you feel like it is a little hostile. If you're feeling like that, maybe you don't need to speak directly to it because you say, oh, well, I'm feeling like this environment's a little hostile. I feel like I'm not being accepted in the space. You could be feeding into that narrative of conflict and creating more of that. So another way to get around this, well, dogs outside, another way to get around this is actually to create something new, to focus the attention onto something else, because people's attention spans are actually pretty fickle. And if you can change people's attention to something else that can change the mood or change the subject, that can also create a new narrative or maybe even common ground for you guys to interact on and to create a new space and perception of things. So those are a couple of my tips. I'd love to hear what your tips are to diffuse hostile situations. I tend to not try to fight people on these things because trying to fight people is really just digging in to an ego that doesn't want to lose. So yeah, I'd love to hear your tips, as well as I'm sure other viewers would love to read your tips in the comment section. If you're new here, leave me a comment, say hello, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!